I'm going to walk us now through the steps of doing a flat felt seam. We're going to be doing that with a muslin sample. We do not need serge samples for this one because we will be trimming away seam allowance. And we're going to do it start off by doing a standard seam, 5/8 inch seam allowance along one edge of your sample. So putting my machine in, starting with a couple stitches, remember to back stitch. And I'm going to walk us through also now how to do, for my sample, I'm going to actually use a chiffon sample for our French seam, because this would be the typical fabric, but you will be using muslin for your sample. The important thing on a French seam is you're starting on the right side of the fabric first and then flipping out. Typically we sew wrong sides together, or right sides together. But in this scenario, you start off with wrong sides together. And I'm going to sew my sample, starting with just the edge of the presser foot at approximately 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And remember to start and stop with a back stitch. Because this particular fabric is a little on the slippery side, I think I am going to sew over my pins. My machine did not like that, so I'm going to take them out. With my French seam, I'm going to open up my seams and I'm going to press my seam allowance to one side. It makes no difference if it's going to the right or left. So I pressed it to one side, I flipped it over and pressed, and then I'm gonna sandwich it flat. On my flat felt seam, I'm going to start like with a standard seam and press my seam open. So I'm just going to split my seam allowance open. Okay, on a flat felt seam allowance, or on a flat felt seam, for the purpose of the sample, you may have a seam that is a little longer than the other, but if you're sewing it at 5/8 of an inch, they should be the same size. But if for some other reason one of your seams is a little shorter, we're gonna trim one down. I would trim the one that may be a little on the shorter side. So I'm gonna trim it approximately in half or down to 1/4 of an inch. So trimming seam allowance away. My seam allowance that is longer now, I'm gonna fold it and trim it to, or I'm gonna fold it by 1/4 of an inch and press it in place. I'm finger pressing, not using a lot of steam, so that I can press the seam down. Now that I've got it pressed, I'm gonna add my steam. And then from there, I'm gonna press it over to have a finished edge. This is the seam that is on almost all of your jeans. I'm gonna pin this down, and then I'll meet you at the sewing machine. Okay, I'm back after trimming my seam allowance. I now have my fabrics together. I'm gonna put my fabric into the machine. What I'm doing is, to finish this off, I am moving my needle position over to the right, keeping my foot on the edge so that I have a little smaller, about 1/4 of an inch smaller seam allowance. So I'm gonna start with a stitch, back stitch, and finished with a back stitch. And here we can see the stitch that's there, but it's all now self-contained. And I would just go through and press, we're gonna press one more time, just press it out. Now I'm gonna go to my flat felt seam. I have put pins in my seam allowance, taking my needle position back to the center. And what I'm gonna do is the edge of my fell, I'm keeping to the inside edge of the presser foot. So I'm stitching, I'm gonna come back to stitch. Pulling my needles or my pins out as I'm going along. As I come to the end, I'm back stitching, pulling out. So now I have a flat felt seam. So on one side you should see just one seam, and on the other side you're gonna see the 2 stitches.